Welcome to the Black Gay History Channel. Please share this video and subscribe to this channel for more captivating content. After posting another recent video about high-profile arrests that were made in Senegal, charging dozens of Senegalese men and celebrities on accusations of homosexual activity, I decided to look up some more gay history in Senegal. And just like everywhere in West Africa, Senegal has a well-documented history of gay identities and communities in the country. Senegal's geography, historic architecture, and its people are absolutely stunning, so it's disappointing that such a beautiful people and culture have become more homophobic in recent years. Senegal is an overwhelmingly Muslim country with 97% of the population being Muslim, and yet many gay people who have been there for generations remember a time when Senegal, especially in Dakar, was much more tolerant of gay and non-binary people. So, despite the conservative regression that is happening in Senegal, they do have a rich history of gay icons and a culture in the country. So, here's a quick list of 5 gay historic icons from Senegal. Francois Banga. Francois Banga was an openly gay Senegalese and French actor, model, and entertainer and entrepreneur who was the face of gay life in the Harlem Renaissance. Francois Banga was born in Senegal on July 8, 1906, and was considered an illegitimate child of a powerful and wealthy family of illustrious property owners in Dakar. When he was 25, he was disinherited by his father when he moved to Paris, but it's in Paris and eventually New York where he would find his destiny as a popular entertainer. After being disowned by his wealthy family in Senegal, Francois moved to Paris and entered the entertainment world, dancing in the popular Parisian nightclub Folie Bergère, meeting other gay icons like Richmond Barth, and performing with Josephine Baker, even dressing as her in photo shoots. I can't help but wonder if Banga's acceptance of his own sexuality had something to do with his fallout with his family. There are extensive amounts of portraits taken of Banga throughout the 1920s and 30s by many notable black and gay artists of the time period, including his friend Richmond Barth, George Platt Lynes, Carl Van Vechten, James A. Porter, and Pavel Chalichu. In the 1930s, Francois Banga would branch out from dancing and modeling to acting. Banga starred in a 1932 film, The Blood of a Poet, directed by Jean Cocteau. In 1935, his lover, a Jewish-American author and anthropologist, Geoffrey Jourer, traveled with Banga throughout several countries in Africa, which inspired him to write a book entitled African Dances, a book he dedicated to Francois Banga. Francois Banga would also play a part in the French romantic film Escale, and in 1936 would feature in another film, Quand Minuit Sonnera, or When Midnight Strikes, a dramatic crime film. By 1947, Francois Banga was back in Paris and notably opened his own cabaret restaurant, La Rose Rouge. And if that isn't astounding enough, the restaurant hosted an African cabaret of all black performers, mostly students from universities in Paris. The Gordan of the Wolof people. The term Gordan, or Jigen, was and is an indigenous Senegalese term used to describe gay men, and likely non-binary people assigned male at birth, well into the 1990s, and some men in the Senegalese cities would even identify as such when interviewed. The term actually means men-women in Wolof, the most common Senegalese language and ethnic group in the country. Over 100 years ago, in 1890, a French socialist named Armand Corre observed that there were Senegalese men in Dakar, the capital of Senegal, who were dressed femininely and were sex workers. Another account of observing gay life in Senegal comes from Geoffrey Coeur, who in 1930 encountered Wolof men who were called Gordan. Coeur would even go on to elaborate and say, quote, "They do not suffer in any social way except the Mohammedans, aka Muslims, who refuse them burials," end quote. Elder Senegalese men have gone on record with media websites describing how gay life was easier in Senegal's past, that Gordan were once respected in Dakar's recent past. Babacar Mbaye shares with theafricannews.com saying, quote, "In the 1980s, as I was, a teenager, I could see individuals, similar to those that are being described today as Gordan. You see, I could remember and didn't remember any violence perpetrated against those individuals. Karmen Gei. In 2001, the breathtakingly gorgeous and exciting film and musical Karmen Gei told a timeless tale about a powerful Senegalese woman named Carmen, who wielded her political and sexual power against her opponents. Karmen Gei is the modern interpretation of the popular 19th century French opera Carmen that has been retold and interpreted many times in recent years. Like the opera in this movie, Carmen escapes prison and leads a revolution using her feminine wiles to control those in power. In this film, Carmen has many male suitors, but also has an intimate relationship with the women's prison warden, or governess, Angelique. A relationship that makes all the women in the prison gossip and laugh, but also makes them love Karmen Gei even more. In the original stories, the police warden character is usually a man, so it was such a progressive move by the filmmakers to make the police warden, who is seduced, to be a woman. There's a very erotic scene when Karmen Gei seduces the governor Angelique to a drum beat and music in front of the entire prison. Though Carmen is seen by people of Senegal as a political rebel, she's also seen as a hero of the people. I love this movie for its excellent acting, incredibly gorgeous cinematography, the dancing, and even the costuming in this movie is impeccable. And of course, it's amazing that in this film, Karmen Gei is celebrated for being a bisexual hero. To this day, I'm pretty certain that Karmen Gei is the only musical film with gay themes and characters in Africa's cinematic history. Diadji Diouf. Diadji Diouf is a prominent LGBT and HIV/AIDS activist working in Senegal. He is the head of AIDS Senegal, the premier HIV and AIDS support organization in Senegal. But because of the country's homophobic legislation, he's been the target of human rights violations and imprisonment. In 2008, Diouf and 9 other men were arrested and charged with homosexual criminality. He and the men were penalized with 8 years in prison, but because of his high profile internationally as a human rights defender, many international human rights organizations like Amnesty International rallied behind him, and those arrested worked to set him free immediately. He was released a year after his imprisonment and continued to work for LGBT and HIV/AIDS rights, considering that there are very few Senegalese people publicly and openly fighting for the LGBT rights in Senegalese media. This man is brave for consistently being open about his life's work even after he was incarcerated. Pure Men. De Pure Homme, or Pure Men in English, is the groundbreaking 2018 French novel by Senegalese and French author Mohamed Mbougar Sarr, a fictional novel that explicitly details the relationship between the Senegalese people and the Gordan, or gay community in the country. The book description reads, quote, "A viral video makes the rounds in Dakar, showing an incensed crowd that gathers to dig up a grave and drag the corpse from holy ground. When Danny, a French literature teacher, watches it, he surprisingly is affected. Who is the man, and what could he have done to deserve such a fate? The answer soon becomes clear. He's a Gordan, one of the so-called men-women, the shameful label given to homosexuals, cross-dressers, or any man who lives outside of the expected norm. Haunted by the photo, Danny sets out to learn more. With the help of a friend who works in nightlife, he explores a hidden side of Dakar, away from the rigid Islam of his family and university. Although he feels a certain disgust for homosexuality, he's moved by the suffering and resilience of the people he meets. But the further he goes, the more he doubts his own identity, threatening to become an object of suspicion and scorn himself. A powerful, nuanced portrait of queerness in a conservative society. Pure Men asks the fundamental question of how to find the courage to be true to yourself, whatever the cost." End quote. Unsurprisingly, because homosexuality is still illegal in Senegal, this novel was banned in the country, though news of the book and its controversial ban made international headlines.